Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're kicking off a series on the absolute must-know commands for mastering the Linux command line. So, whether you're just starting out or you're gearing up for that LPIC-1 certification, these commands are the bedrock, your foundation for really taking charge of your system. Let's dive right in. So, does this screen look familiar? Have you ever felt totally lost just staring at that blinking cursor in the Linux terminal? Look, it can feel pretty intimidating at first, kind of like you're trying to learn a whole new language from scratch, right? Well, that's exactly what we're going to change today. We are going to master the commands that put you in the driver's seat. These aren't just random bits of text. They're your tools. They are tools of empowerment that will let you command your system with total confidence. Okay, so first things first. Before we start giving orders, we kind of need to know who we're talking to. So let's meet your shell. The best way to think of it is as the actual language of Linux. The program we're interacting with is called Bash. That stands for the GNU Born Again shell. For most Linux users out there, this is your default. Just think of it as your personal translator. You type in a command, and Bash is the one that takes it and tells the operating system what you want it to do. It's our direct line right to the heart of the machine. All right, now that we've been introduced, let's have our very first conversation with the shell. We're going to start by answering two really basic but totally crucial questions. Where am I, and how do I get this thing to talk back to me? Our very first command, and probably one you'll use all the time, is pwd. It stands for Print Working Directory. Think of this as your personal GPS. In the massive, sprawling file system of Linux, pwd tells you exactly which room or directory you're standing in at this very moment. It's absolutely essential for just getting your bearings. And using it is as simple as it gets. You just type pwd, hit enter, and boom! It tells you your exact location. In this case, home/Christine. Trust me, you are going to be typing this one all the time. You've got to know where you are before you start doing anything else. All right, next up we have echo. So if pwd is you asking, where am I? Echo is you saying, hey, say this back to me. It's a really simple command on the surface, but it's incredibly useful for displaying any kind of data right back to your screen. Here's a super simple example. You type echo and then some text in quotes like I love Linux, and it just repeats it right back to you. Easy enough. But where echo really starts to shine is when we bring variables into the mix. Okay, so what are variables? The easiest way to think about them is as the shell's short-term memory. They're like little named boxes where you can store information that the shell and any other programs you run can access and use later. Now this slide is so important because it shows you the magic of a single character. The $sign. See on the left, if you type echo shell, it just prints the literal word shell. But on the right, when you add that $sign, echo, $shell, you're telling the shell, hey, don't give me the word, give me the value stored inside that box. And just like that, you get /bin/bash. That's the key takeaway here. The $sign is the key that unlocks the value of a variable. Okay, so how do you actually see all these variables that are floating around? Well, the env command is your window into the environment. It shows you all the global settings, which we call environment variables. These are available to your current shell session and any programs you decide to launch from it. By the way, the printenv command does the exact same thing. But here's the catch. Env only shows you the global ones, the ones that are shared everywhere. What if you have variables that are just for this specific terminal session? Well, if you want the full picture, the whole shebang, you need the set command. This shows you everything, all the environment variables, plus all the local shell variables and a bunch of other settings. It's the complete list. So we've got these two types of variables, right? Local and global. But what if you make a local one and you suddenly need another program to be able to see it? How do you promote a local variable to the big leagues? That's where export comes in. The export command takes a local variable and basically exports it into the global environment, making it visible to any new programs or shells you start from then on. And, just like you can create things, you can also get rid of them. The unset command does exactly what it sounds like. It deletes a variable completely, removing it from the shell's memory. But here's a little word of friendly advice. It's usually best to only unset variables that you've created yourself. Getting rid of a critical system variable can make things act, well, pretty weird. So we've been throwing around these terms shell variables and environment variables. Let's just take a second to really nail down the difference because this is a super important concept in Linux. And this chart here really breaks it down perfectly. It really, truly all boils down to one word: scope. Shell variables are local. They only exist in the one shell where you create them. Environment variables are global. They exist in your current shell, and they get passed down to any other programs or shells you launch. That is the key distinction you gotta remember.
All right, so now we know how to talk to this shell and use its memory. How about we take a little peek behind the curtain? How does the shell actually figure out what to do with the commands we type?
To do that, we use a command called type. And this is one of my favorite little diagnostic tools. It tells you exactly how the shell is interpreting a command you give it. Is it something built right into the shell itself? Is it a custom shortcut, what we call an alias? Or is it a totally separate program living somewhere else on your computer? And here's what you'll typically see. There are basically three kinds of answers you can get back. If you type cd, it'll tell you it's a shell built in. It's a core part of Bash itself. If you type ls, you might see it's an alias, a shortcut for a longer command. And if you type find, it spits out a file path, telling you it's a separate external program. Now for those external commands, there's another great detective tool called which. This command specifically searches through all the directories listed in your special path variable to pinpoint the exact location of that program's file. It literally answers the question, where on this computer is the actual file for this command? Phew. Okay, we've actually covered a ton of ground here. So let's just pull it all together and do a quick recap of your new essential command line toolkit. You've got pwd, so you'll never be lost. You have echo to make the shell talk and to see what's inside variables. You have env and set to inspect your entire working environment. You've got export and unset to control those variables. And finally, you have type and which to understand what your commands actually are. These are the tools you need to start navigating and really interacting with your system. So, there you have it. That's the first big step. You now have the fundamental vocabulary to start having real conversations with your Linux system. So, the only question that's left is, what are you going to command it to do next?